I've noticed lately that there are a ton of movies I remember watching when I was a little one and know the characters of so well from just existing on the internet and being in tune with movie culture. But if you were to ask me what actually happened in these movies, I'd have nothing to say to you. I can lay out the entire plot of the Lego Batman movie or Coco, recapping bonus scenes as well as how they made the movie because I bought the Art of books. But if you were to ask me what happened in, say, The Box Trolls, Turbo, Flubber, or Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium, I'm just gonna stare at you uttering the words, I think I watched that at one point in time. And I thought it would be fun to start a series going back to these movies and seeing what I missed from them now having a consciousness and being a movie reviewer.
Oh, sorry, boys.
Whoa, yeah, that cools the giblet.
And how could I not start off with Gnomeo and Juliet, and also Sherlock Gnomes, unfortunately, but we will get into that. Gnomeo and Juliet is one of those movies I remember watching over and over again after it came out. It was my only introduction to Shakespeare, but once that binge stopped and I moved on to like Jessie or Lego Ninjago, my mind completely erased everything that went on in it, and the only thing I was left with is images of the sexy frog in my brain.
And his
hat is,
big and pointy.
I can't believe they let that get past the censors. For those of you who don't get the joke, the joystick is a metaphor for penis.
By the way, I love media that feels like it was obviously made just because someone came up with a funny title or character idea and thought, wait, this has to be a thing. That happening is the whole reason we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Some dude in his basement thought it would be funny to put a ninja mask on a turtle, giggled to himself, and then made $20 million. And it's the whole reason Gnomeo and Juliet exists. However, usually pun concepts like this go on to become webcomics or comics like TMNT, not a full-fledged feature with a $36 million budget with 9 writers featuring James McAvoy, Emily Blunt, and Hulk Hogan for some reason. Quick lore drop before I review. Gnomeo and Juliet is from director Kelly Asbury, who did Shrek 2, Ugly Dolls, Smurfs: The Lost Village. I'm sensing a pattern here with the latter two. Unfortunately, rest in peace. And the movie was developed by Elton John's production company Rocket Pictures in collaboration with Disney's joint film production label Touchstone Pictures. Also rest in peace, which is a division Disney started to put out movies that were made for more mature audiences and allowed more filmmaker flexibility. Also known as, it was a second channel for movies Disney was too scared to have their brand name associated with. Unless, of course, the movie became popular, then Disney would throw that brand name on it and cash in. Sadly, Gnomeo and Juliet did not become as marketable as The Nightmare Before Christmas. This was Elton John's passion project. However, he is quoted to have said that having only his music for the soundtrack was not his idea, and that he was happy with the way they put in his songs without making it feel too much like an Elton John movie. What a humble king. Elton John stood by the creation of this film for 11 years as the producer and would call up Disney every time they would threaten to stop funding the production, which they did several times because they were ashamed of the concept. He was not going to let the world not be able to enjoy a gnome in a mankini. Now, would I agree that the Elton John songs are inserted in a clever way, like Elton John says? Not at all.
Saturday, 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 Saturday.
But it's fine because this is maybe one of the greatest self-inserts of all time. Lin-Manuel Miranda could never top this. Off the bat, this movie is so self-aware about not wasting the audience's viewership. Anytime something is gonna be explained, we get a joke out of the character not getting to finish their sentence. Gnomeo and Juliet predicted TikTok attention spans and knew they had to alter to extend the timelessness. Absolutely genius if you ask me.
The story you are about to see has been told before. A lot. And now we are going to tell it again. But different.
There is nothing more you need to know about this movie's plot other than the fact that these two gnome groups hate each other because they both think they have the better garden. That's completely it. That's the conflict they came up with in 5 seconds based on the actual play. Now it's time for a caked up Dolly Parton gnome and lawnmower racing. Hell yes!
No biting, no scratching, no kicking, no burping, no slurping, no slurping. No.
Also, I just want to add that I think Red is obviously winning the garden war. Why is there a toilet in Blue's backyard? Who decided that would look visually pleasing in the lawn? I'm just sensing a strong hoarder vibe from the lady that lives in this house instantly. We get a incredibly strong introduction to our main characters, the iconic Gnomeo and Juliet, who are both struggling to make their parents happy. Their single, I think, widowed parents are Lady Blueberry and Lord Redbrick, who give us the first dialogue joke of the movie and do a terrible job at making it sound like it's not just them flirting. You can tell Redbrick likes a little sass to his gnome women. You can tell he is red and bricked up. Oh my god.
I don't like what you're incinerating.
The proper word is insinuating. Illiterate.
I am not illiterate. My parents were married.
This is maybe one of the funniest scenes in the movie, and it's literally like 5 minutes in. Gnomeo's mom, Lady Blueberry, gives him a set of garden chores each day to fill his routine, such as edging, I guess.
Oh, which is why I wanted to say.
I know, my chores.
Gnome.
Edging.
Say that again?
Edging.
The artistic choice of having just a little sliver of blonde hair poke out of Gnomeo's hat to not only separate him from the other gnomes, but also to remind you this is canonically a 16-year-old boy and not an elderly man, is peak character design. However, then again, it would be more accurate if he did look like an elderly man, because Romeo is like 5 years older than Juliet in the real story.
Where have you been? You know how much deep shit you're in right now?
Why are you so angry?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe because your obsession with middle schoolers!
We then get introduced to Gnomeo's arch nemesis, Tybalt the Gnome, voiced by Jason Statham, who does this snarky laugh the whole movie and this goddamn cross-armed pose I despise. FYI, Jason Statham has not done a voice role since this film came out. This was apparently all he needed to accomplish in the celebrity voice acting world, and I find that so funny. I like to picture Jason Statham at like a Comic-Con signing pictures of like Rick Ford or his Fast and the Furious character, and then some whimsical little guy comes up to him to get him to sign a picture of Tybalt the Gnome. Tybalt ends up cheating during the first lawnmower race of the movie by throwing a pipe at Gnomeo's mower, sending it flying into the road. This segment is like the weirdest mix of being super dramatic out of nowhere and then just completely glosses over it. Like, how are we just gonna skip over this? You're telling me not a single human went to investigate the loud bang of a lawnmower getting hit by a car? The broken lawnmower and all the gnomes accusing Tybalt of cheating like it wasn't super obvious gives Gnomeo the motivation to break into Red's yard to cause some mayhem, which I guess has not been done before. Is this even a true rivalry? That should be the first thing on your agenda. I'm just gonna come out and say it real quick before I recap any more of this movie's plot. I don't remember this film feeling so much like a long video game cutscene. I don't remember there being so much clear as day loose air between dialogue, which is one of my biggest animated film pet peeves. As soon as I notice awkward pauses in movies dialogue, I instantly stop watching, and it makes me even more mad when animated movies do it because there's such an easy fix. Literally just cut 2 seconds between.
The Red Garden? No one's ever been in there.
Then I'd say it's about time someone did. And payback is gonna be fun.
Red Garden? No one's ever been in there.
Then I'd say it's about time someone did. And payback is gonna be fun.
The background gnomes in Gnomeo and Juliet have very NPC reactions to everything, and these gnomes are literally just the aliens from Toy Story.
A cheat, that's what you are.
And it's breaking my heart to look back on this and see all these flaws I missed when I first watched it when I was little. I need to stay positive. It was 2011, so it kind of gets a pass, I guess. Actually, no, because Rango came out that same year. But okay, actually, it is fine because the Gnomeo preparing for revenge segment is a masterclass in Foley sound effects, and you cannot tell me otherwise. You can say what you want about the animation in this movie and how it's held up, but you can just really tell more than anything that they had everything sound-wise intricately planned out in this film. The sound of the duct tape ripping caresses my earlobes. The sound of Gnomeo rubbing dirt on his clay skin is so satisfying. The noise this paperclip makes sounds exactly like a Mario sound effect, and I cannot think of which one, and it's killing me. But by far the best part of this movie's sound design is the little clinks as characters interact with each other and stuff around them. It's so fun to spot and hear. We get this small ongoing gag with a voice by Ozzy Osbourne Deer playing movie charades while Gnomeo sneaks into the yard in the background, and I think it's such a creative way to add an unimportant joke into an important scene.
Let's play a game. I'm thinking of a movie. It's one word, and it starts with, spider.
Is it Spider-Man?
Oh, you're good. Okay.
Gnomeo has his sidekick Benny by his side to help infiltrate with him, and I hate to say this, but I want him dead. Everything else, comedy-wise, so far still holds up in a very nostalgia way, but Benny's given such a cliche, I'm so goofy role. He not only screws up the entire operation by spray painting directly near the ears of who they're trying not to get caught by, but he just looks completely stupid. If I saw anybody, let alone a gnome, dressed like this in my yard, they're getting punted. Thanks to Benny, Tibble and Gnomeo have to come face to face and have to fight each other. The pan around as they jump in the air holding their garden weapons is kind of sick though, I'll admit it. Them doing a Toy Story Andy is coming pose mid-fight as the house owner is alerted is also really clever. If you ignore that this is really suspicious, what do you mean you went to your window, saw that your gnomes have completely altered their figure, and you're not gonna question it, you're just gonna head back to bed. Also, last time I checked, gnomes don't have joints, so this movie isn't plausible. I'm sorry to let you guys know that. Then Gnomeo manages to just teleport and fly out of there on what I think are United Kingdom pants, maybe. I genuinely cannot dissect what these are supposed to be. If it is pants, holy shit, those are huge. What kind of monster is living in that house? Meanwhile, while all of this is happening, Juliet is losing her mind of boredom and is planning her own mission, which is a big steal of the greenhouse orchid nearby, which she hopes will set the Reds higher in the ranks of the garden war that is still ongoing. She goes and steals this sleeping gnome's fishing pole to open the lock of the fence to make her way out of there. Genuinely Einstein levels of thinking, but she's sadly caught by her frog friend, Nanette. I absolutely adore Nanette the frog. She's maybe the best character in this movie and defines its quality. She's one of those characters that says anything on her mind and spends the whole movie roasting Juliet to hell and back, and it's such a treat.
Thanks, Nanette. You know he's going to ditch you when he finds out how much you weigh.
I'm a sucker for sidekick characters that are the perfect balance of being passive-aggressive and poking fun at our main character, but at the end of the day, they still really care for the main character, and I feel like Nanette is that to the highest regard.
Ooh, あなたはその服がとても似合いますね。
Instead of landing back in his garden, Gnomeo of course falls near the greenhouse. You could never predict what happens next. Everything in this plot so far has been building to maybe the only acceptable meet cute in movie history. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at the segment I've been waiting for. I would not have made this video if the Gnomeo and Juliet meeting for the first time segment didn't exist. I forget how good it is. Most of this film takes place during the day in a grassy environment, so it's bound to be visually very bland, especially for a 3D animated film that came out before the Spider-Verse era, but the pink and purple lighting during these shots is so good. The pauses of the song about to play as Juliet's silhouette runs past Gnomeo is so unserious that I giggle every time.
Feeling like head on out to see the sight.
We get the made-for-the-movie original song Hello Hello by Elton John and Lady Gaga, which is maybe better than the actual Elton John hits in the soundtrack. It genuinely sounds like it could have been one of his hits in the 80s easily. And it's a crime to me the Lady Gaga version is not on Spotify. They really fumbled the promo of this song and I will never forgive them. Hello Hello could have easily been the next All-Star, the next When Can I See You Again? And it makes me mad to think about that. The song syncing with Gnomeo and Juliet both latching onto the orchid at the same time is chill-inducing. The heart in the flower and the moon's reflection making a heart in the water never fails to get me blushing. You guys don't understand the hidden art in this.
Something comes to tip you off your stool.
The romance in this movie is done in a way that's still realistic and awkward as they fight over who's gonna keep the orchid. Usually romance in any medium is eye-rolling to me, especially when characters fall in love so quickly with forced chemistry, but that's because they don't include the magnum opus line that is, who's your Gnomey?
Who's your Gnomey?
Who's your Gnomey?
Whoa!
Who's your Gnomey now?
After fighting over the orchid, they fall into the pond where their outfits come off and the big reveal that they are different colors comes to fruition. The film suddenly remembers that it's supposed to be a Romeo and Juliet parody and really pushes the doomed love aspect all at once at you. Juliet goes to talk to Nanette and she instantly notices that something is off. Does she have mind reading powers?
What orchid? What? Shut up! You met a boy!
Gnomeo almost instantly comes back to talk to Juliet, even when the whole Red Village is looking for him, not giving her any time to catastrophize, and I have to praise this movie's writing for its willingness to waste no time, and I love seeing the difference of Gnomeo just so distracted by her and wanting to talk to her so quickly. But Juliet is more laid back and she still feels like it's forbidden. I think that's a great personality difference. They follow all of this up with another one of my favorite scenes in the movie. For some reason, 2010 animated movies that are considered forgettable always have that one life-altering, devastating scene that you think about in the deep subconscious for the rest of your life. For example, I'll be honest, I still think about the Krill subplot in Happy Feet 2.
Where are you going? I'm leaving! I want to be free, Bill! There's no such thing as free, Will!
And for Gnomeo and Juliet, the Krill subplot energy comes from Featherstone the flamingo.
Look at that baby, huh? Watch me now.
Who has been trapped in a shed for years after his owner threw him away following a divorce. This is where the infamous Love Builds the Garden montage comes into play, where we see Featherstone's backstory and him going through his own loss of love with a female flamingo ornament who is separated from him. This is the worst breakup I've ever seen. I didn't think they could top Hello Hello, but Love Builds a Garden is a close second. I would maybe even put it above Hello Hello in terms of song quality if it wasn't for how similar it is to Toy Story 2's When She Loved Me. Featherstone serves as kind of the beam of hope in the story that makes Gnomeo and Juliet realize they can make it work, and it's beautiful.
You hear it every day. Once upon a time, they say. Once upon a time in this place, I looked and saw on your face a smile that spoke to me in oh so many ways. This, what the fuck? Boots from ground up, each one of us knowing, each of it was us. We pulled it all together, hoping and believing. Love built this garden to get a little rain. Then the sun came out again. But a frost, it's hard to fight. Once it takes hold, flowers die. Don't touch so much you can do to keep some things alive. Is that the end? Oh fuck. Yep. The fuck is this? This shit looks like tack for Nickelodeon.
I'm kind of just like rambling about my favorite parts because I don't think I can recap any more of this film well, because it gets kind of crazy and unexplainable from here. We of course get the devastating scene where Gnomeo and Juliet's parents find out about their relationship that's forming, and the generational trauma argument that comes from this leaves Gnomeo to get supposedly smashed into pieces.
Smashing for one day.
It's eventually revealed he did survive, but there's a good chunk of the last act where all of the characters think he straight up died. And I thought that was such an insane plot element when I was 8. I think I was just easily impressed with any dramatic, depressing scene that featured rain. It blew my little mind that emotion and weather could collide and create an aesthetic of its own. It's so messed up to me that after they all witnessed this, Lord Redbrick decides to go and glue Juliet's feet to her castle. That's batshit psychopathic insane to do after she just witnessed her crush die. It also blew my mind in 2011 that they just straight up disintegrated Tybalt into dust. Like, hell yes, finally, I hated him. Let Benny be next, but oh my god, I did not expect that. One thing I will say disappoints me about Gnomeo and Juliet is not that they don't kill off Gnomeo and Juliet like in Romeo and Juliet. I get why they don't do that. It's a kid's film, obviously, and this is supposed to be a solely romantic comedy, not a romantic drama. It's not trying to be super related to source material, but in doing so, the movie tries to make up for not killing Gnomeo and Juliet by dissing Shakespeare himself. I don't know who or why the writers thought that was a smart choice to make.
They both die? What kind of an ending is that?
My dear boy, this is a tragedy.
Yeah, you're telling me, mate, it's rubbish.
No, you don't get to. You don't get to do that.
I completely understand wanting to reference the creator of what your characters are based on, but usually when movies do this, they play on the silly nuances in the source material that they're referencing. It doesn't just outright talk down the creator they're taking from. Like, imagine if the Garfield movie opened up with Garfield throwing darts at a picture of Jim Davis, calling him unfunny. Side note, I really want to know how Shakespeare would have reacted to this film if he was alive when it came out. I feel like he'd just completely ignore its existence, or he would accept defeat and admit it's better. I totally skipped over the true magnum opus of the entire film, better than Featherstone's part, better than the orchid scene, and it's the scene where Benny straight up buys a $9,000 lawnmower to destroy Red's garden. Psychopathic behavior aside, how did he accomplish established this, I'm still wondering that. I can't believe he went inside this woman's house, not only didn't get caught, but was able to just click buy on a $9,000 item. I have to give an arm and a leg just to get freeze-dried Skittles online. This guy clicked one button and just spent 5 months of this woman's rent. No information was needed. What is going on in this world's version of purchasing online? The ending to this rendition of Romeo and Juliet is a full-on war lawnmower destruction action scene that unfortunately does not include them setting up pea shooters and throwing cherry bombs at each other, but that would be epic. That would be such a good crossover. Gnomeo and Juliet 3 Garden Warfare win. I have to pitch this right now.
What do you think, Lady B? This baby is fully equipped. Equipped for what? It has settings for edging, trimming, mulching, and revenge. Do it, baby.
What is going on?
The battle completes, everything is destroyed, the dust clears, and Shroom lets them all know the battle is over and that Gnomeo and Juliet did not survive. But from the rubble comes Gnomeo's hand. Oh, fuck, it's Mankini! Oh, wait, no. It is Gnomeo and Juliet. They did survive, and they rise up together after the whole arena shifts into a callback to the start of the film, and it's pure cinema at its finest. What other movie does a bait and switch like this? That's right, no other movie. What other movie has a scene drenched in this much adorableness? Name me a movie that encapsulates the realness of soulmates like this does. There is just too much artistry in this film, and it's blowing my mind. I'm just kidding, guys. The film actually ends with, of course, a dance party sequence featuring Crocodile Rock to wrap everything in a nice bow. And yes, I know the problems people have with anime and movie dance endings, but I think it works here in this movie because it's supposed to feel like an ending to a play where the cast walks down the stage in rows and bows, and I think it excuses this being a lazy ending choice. Them trying to recreate that is the exception.
Get it, Grandma. You go, baby. Go, Grandma.
My only actual gripe with the ending to this film is how anticlimactically it wraps up Featherstone reuniting with his lost love. But then lets Tybalt come back and do these stupid emotes. It's so unfair. Give Featherstone a spin-off like he deserves. With that being said, I've come to the conclusion that Gnomeo and Juliet still holds a special place in my heart. And yeah, sure, maybe I'm gonna go back to forgetting everything in it after uploading this video immediately, but it's just one of those movies that's so nonsensical and unbelievable that you can't help but appreciate it. The jokes are so simple and so pun-based and maybe kind of lazy, but that's kind of what makes this movie so rare. Watching Gnomeo and Juliet makes me miss when anime and movies felt so much simpler. They didn't feel like they were constantly throwing eye candy at you, trying to constantly keep you entertained and on your feet. You know how Peter Griffin says it insists upon itself about The Godfather in that one clip? This movie does the opposite of that. It has the same energy of a little kid dressed in a Spider-Man outfit giving you a joke while he's trick-or-treating. It's got that same joy. It's got the same energy of watching a friend's school project that's super DIY, except it's 9 people that threw it together. Gnomeo and Juliet is also a great example of how you can make celebrity voice casting feel less like a we need this person to help us sell our movie better moment, and more of a, well, we should get these celebrities because it would be really funny to see them as a gnome or a reindeer moment. It doesn't feel like they casted James McAvoy or Emily Blunt only because they're James McAvoy and Emily Blunt. I think they understood more than anything that they needed chemistry. And then while they were at it, they were like, oh my god, we love Dolly Parton, let's get her in this. Oh my god, my favorite wrestler is Hulk Hogan, can we get him to do a commentary for a lawnmower commercial? That's something I feel like I would do if I was making a movie, just use the opportunity to cast all my favorite celebrities. Oh, you thought this video was gonna end here happily ever after as I celebrated a standalone fever dream work of art? No. 6 years later, a sequel managed to be pumped out of nowhere from the co-creator of Kung Fu Panda because for some reason this needed to be a cinematic universe. You're telling me Gorillas tried to get 3 movies made and failed, but Sherlock Gnomes had no trouble being greenlit? I don't even know if you can call this movie a sequel because it's clearly just a whole different film, but the characters from Gnomeo and Juliet just like trail along awkwardly. It's like if there was a sequel to Storks called Frogs and like the Storks and the Ginger were in the background for the whole film just trying to keep up with the frog story. How the hell do you third wheel your own main characters? Sherlock Gnomes feels like 3 films stapled together. I remember when the trailers and ads for this movie were just spammed everywhere. The promotion rollout literally broke James McAvoy all all the happiness from working on the first one was drained. Why are his eyes bloodshot here? Did nobody double check before posting this ad?
The film, in some ways, for those two anyway, is about the outside world becoming that much larger and that much more difficult and complicated to deal with for what was a very innocent and young love. And so I think that the environment around them is reflecting that by becoming larger and more complicated and more loud and noisy and dirty and foggy.
What the fertilizer?
I'm Sherlock Gnomes.
The trailers were so funny too because not only are half the clips in them not actually in the movie, but they are maybe the worst clips ever conjured up. This was 2018, we had just come out of the Boss Baby emoji movie Wimpy Kid Long Haul year, and these trailers were the last remaining rebel trying to dig itself out.
Need a ship. No ship, Sherlock.
There was also the marketing campaign of parody posters they did that was actually kind of creative, but they just quickly gave up and decided, you know what, team? Hell, make whatever posters you can think of. Just make sure Sherlock Gnomes is holding the iconic magnifying glass no matter what, or else you die. Now, I will say upon watching it for this video, I expected it to be so much worse than I imagined. I was prepared to be welcomed by 10 Mankini "I'm okay" moments, which there is, but just maybe 1 or 2 times in the film. Sherlock Gnomes, more than anything, is just really boring rather than unwatchably cringe. Ignoring the dabbing gnome, the simple charm, sometimes so unfunny that it's funny vibe of the first film is worn off, and we instead get an unclever, confusing mystery plot that goes in circles for what feels like 2 hours, which is crazy because this movie is like 1 hour and 15 minutes, barely feature length. At least when I watch Gnomeo and Juliet, I leave with a little bit of joy in my heart, a little bit of nostalgia. When you stop watching Sherlock Gnomes, you feel anxiety because you're trying to figure out what you just watched. That's not a feeling I want to have watching an animated movie. Why is there one single musical performance by a Mary J. Blige doll who looks like she would be in Nintendo's arms? Why is this film's rendition of Moriarty a pie mascot? Like, say what you want about this character design, I don't despise it, I'm totally up for goofy looking villains, but Dr. Watson and Sherlock Gnomes are just regular gnomes. Why is he the only character that's a weird blob creature? He keeps licking his teeth and it makes me uncomfortable. I'll give this movie this, the first 20 minutes does feel like a sequel, even if an unnecessary one. We get an opening bit where the small gnomes say 10 other titles that would probably be more entertaining. It's always a good sign you're gonna watch a fire feature film when the first 5 minutes is the characters saying way better concepts that stand superior to the one we're about to witness.
Sherlock Holmes, the greatest. Let's do Gnomeo and Juliet instead. Yeah, we've already done that. Hey, I know. Game of Gnomes. Or the Gnome Ranger. No, we're doing this. Sherlock Holmes, the greatest detective of all time.
The neighbors move into a new house together. They're now a couple. Lady Blueberry and Red Brick retire and give garden leadership to Gnomeo and Juliet, which later sparks a conflict, as Gnomeo feels she is distracted from their relationship.
Ever since we took over the garden, it's like she's not listening to me anymore.
Eh? Oh, sorry, I wasn't listening.
It's a forced conflict that's not really ever fully explored because, again, it only exists to give them something to do. But, like, it's okay. There's some interesting drama to it. Oh, there's a Nepo baby joke. That's probably the only laugh the film got out of me.
It's the perfect opportunity to name new leaders. Gnomeo and Juliet.
Us? Hooray for nepotism! Unbelievable.
Benny has a crush on Nanette now for some reason, and I still hate his guts. I think she needs a restraining order. You brought him back, but not my boy Featherstone. Are you serious? There's kind of a callback to the first film as Gnomeo sets out to steal another orchid to remind Juliet of the old times. This whole segment is 100 times more suspenseful than the actual mystery story of the film. They could have rolled credits right here, and I would have left with more value than the 1 hour more of the story.
And, don't call me Tiny D.
I saw you dancing out the ocean.
Like, this rain scene 18 minutes in looks so good. I love all the little reflections on Gnomeo and Juliet's clay skin. I feel like my eyes are getting cleaned. I can smell rubbing alcohol, but then we get Sherlock Gnomes and the whole crowd sighs and falls asleep. He has absolutely zero personality beyond I'm smarter than everybody and I only listen to myself, which I understand that they're going for a parody of Sherlock Holmes, obviously, but like, at least still let him be funny or interesting beyond that, instead of just repeating that trait every time he's on screen because you have no other ideas for his character. He's voiced by Johnny Depp, who could not sound less lively or interested.
John, the director, and I started working together recording the character. It was a kind of a How can we up the stakes here? How can we free things up?
Same goes with Dr. Watson, the sidekick of Sherlock Gnomes, who is immediately shown as feeling unappreciated by Sherlock with no build up to it. It just zooms in on his face like poor him every time he's on screen and actually expects me to feel bad for him.
Yes, Sherlock? Yours, I believe.
Motherfucker, what makes you think I care?
The mystery plot follows the garden gnomes getting kidnapped after Gnomeo and Juliet's big fight, and Sherlock, Gnomes, and Watson come onto the case finding the clues left by what seems to be Moriarty. But the clues are really just so they can get from one scene to another without much actual thinking. The only movie that has really done this right is Paddington 2, and that's because it's just a bonus to a story that has so many other elements. Sherlock Gnomes, on the other hand, relies its entire plot structure on these clues. Sherlock Gnomes doesn't want Gnomeo and Juliet to come with them on the search, and he lets them know this by going nonverbal on them.
The game is afoot. Mate, you're going nowhere.
Stay here.
We're on the case. What a complete and total...
Get up. We're going after them.
Why can't he tell them that he wants to just handle this himself? I don't know. They just really needed this running in a sewer scene with I'm Still Standing blasting. I don't know why, but communication is non-existent in this film. It's like when scenes actually need dialogue, it's pure silence. And when it's inappropriate for dialogue, characters are blabbering about.
It's over, Watson. It's over, Watson. It's over, Watson. It's over, Watson.
Then they sneak into Curly Foo's Emporium in Chinatown for the first card where they pass this guy playing Fortnite. You can faintly hear the Wilhelm scream because why wouldn't it be in this movie? Bingo over here.
Nice shot.
And then we get almost cultural appropriation. I can't really comment on that. I'm not Chinese. The only thing that kept me from zoning out during this scene was the salt shaker voiced by Ping from Kung Fu Panda, who keeps flinging salt everywhere, and it's actually really adorable and clever.
Empress Pom-Pom remembers you, Sherlock Gnomes.
Oh, good, good.
Not fondly.
I'm not even gonna try and recap the rest of this story because it's just random shenanigan after random shenanigan that disguises its importance in this is how we're finding the next clue. We have to do this. We need Sherlock Gnomes shaking that ass for the Rotten Tomatoes score points. Dr. Watson falls to his death and the Wilhelm scream comes back again because God forbid a character dying be dramatic. Gnomeo gets captured by these loud gargoyles and is taken to the rest of the hostage gnomes because his relationship issues got the best of him and he couldn't just stick with Juliet and Sherlock. The first film's Gnomeo was so unconditional. What happened? Why did they turn him into a podcast bro that needs all this attention? Get a job. I don't know if it's the slightly upgraded animation quality, but somehow Nanette feels more naked here than she was in the last movie. It also really throws me off how the humans in this film have the same textures as the gnomes. They did not try to change the visual look of the humans at all. Juliet has a pep talk with Irene, Mary J. Blige, as she realizes Gnomeo's worth in that she has been kind of taking him for granted. Also kind of a good time. It's a little something. I wish it was just the main focus because without it being the core, it feels like wasted time. Now the big twist in the film is that the gnomes were actually kidnapped by Dr. Watson and he orchestrated this whole mystery to get back at Sherlock for how he's been ignoring him and his importance over the span of their partnership. Kind of a parallel to what Gnomeo and Juliet are going through. But then the next twist is that the gargoyles tricked him and Moriarty is behind the whole scheme. So there actually isn't a plot twist. The villain is still Moriarty, just as they had guessed and the audience had predicted. They just teased us with a much more interesting, although still predictable idea, and then backtracked immediately. It doesn't even add anything to Sherlock and Watson's dynamic afterward either. They completely forget that it happened. I read this Letterboxd review of somebody saying that Watson does the equivalent to running away from home and then coming back an hour later because nobody noticed, and that could not be more true. We get the whole fight scene near the end. We get a 2-minute important bit where Moriarty tries to figure out how to screen record. Why is this important? I don't know. I'm asking the same thing. The writers realized they were too far gone at this point, so they just started throwing anything into the script to fill up the time.
Can you guess what happens next? Here, I'll show you. Screen share, screen share. How do I screen?
Gnomeo and Juliet fly around in a drone for some reason. It is kind of badass though. I would not mind a Tom Cruise parody with these two. The gnomes get covered in soap for some reason, and at first I thought it was some fetish Total Drama Island type writing, but it's just to get them unstuck and not crushed to death, which makes a lot more sense. I wasn't paying attention, I was just waiting for the film to end. They don't even have the guts to kill off Moriarty. He just like falls into the water and makes a joke about how it's polluted.
This water is disgusting. Oh, it's going in my mouth, it's going in my mouth. Oh no, my phone!
Why are the gnomes celebrating? He's still alive. You did not do a thing. Once he gets to land, he's just gonna come back and kidnap you again, this time maybe not being so obvious. I don't understand what was accomplished here. This is some Phineas and Ferb Dr. Doofenshmirtz type shit. The film actually ends with Gnomeo and Juliet claiming their spots as the new garden leaders once and for all, starting their new life chapter because again, remember, this is a Gnomeo and Juliet sequel. Was there anything in this main storyline that suggested this needed to be the conclusion? No. It would be 100 times more satisfying and make more sense if it ended with like Sherlock Gnomes and Dr. Watson getting married because, you know, they're the main characters. They should have the end. They shouldn't feel like guests in their own movie's ending. I'm looking way too deep into this. I almost feel embarrassed. This was clearly for a young audience, but like if you wanted to please a younger audience, why would you choose Sherlock Holmes? I understand that expecting a movie with the name Sherlock Gnomes to be good is kind of unfair.
Not how a squirrel shoots this behind. Mankini, can you demonstrate?
Yeah! But I don't know, some of my favorite movies have concepts you would never think could work as well as they do. Like when you look at the Goofy movie or the Lego movie or Paddington 2, judging from the poster, you would never expect them to be so incredibly written. And I love that feeling of convincing somebody who has never seen them to watch them and see their feelings go from, there's no way that could be anything special, to, oh my god, that's a masterpiece, why is that so good? And I genuinely think Sherlock Gnomes could have added to that if it focused less on appealing to the times of 2018 and more on being an interesting character-driven adventure with a lot of silliness, like Gnomeo and Juliet does so well. I don't know how to conclude this video or why I went so deep into these two films. I just woke up one morning and thought about gnomes. I dressed up as a gnome for Halloween last year, so that was probably a foreshadow to this happening. Sherlock Gnomes is a great example of when Hollywood can ruin a perfect one-and-done moment. Gnomeo and Juliet is forever a period piece of the 2010s that you can look back on and laugh a little bit that it ever happened, and it should have remained that way. Like, hell yeah, there is an animated film in this universe in my same dimension with a Dolly Parton gnome, an Ozzy Osbourne reindeer, and a flirtatious frog that I really want to make out with.